Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas. Namo tas bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhas.
In this lesson, we will be covering the first 13 thoughts or mental factors. And in Abhidhamma, or the highest teaching of Buddhist psychology and universal laws of things, we talked about these 4 categories last lesson. In the Abhidhamma, Tathagata Buddha has, in his infinite wisdom, has broken, the matter or objects and mental energy into the very finest level. In a similar way that you learn about the periodic table in your science lessons, as the finest levels of matter. Sadhu has broken the energy that's all around us into different categories and into finest levels. So these categories are of 4 types. There's 2 that relates to the mind energy, which we all have as a mind, and thoughts. In Pali, there's the ancient language called Pali is utilized to teach these in Buddhism. So we will be learning some Pali words as part of this lesson. So don't be alarmed by those words. Just imagine you're learning a new language like Chinese or Spanish. But I'll try to translate those words into as closely related language in English as possible, although the exact meaning is difficult to translate. So the 4 categories of all energy levels that Sadhu has broken down to is called, in Pali, is called Chitta, this word here, Chitta. And the second one is called Caitaika. Third one is called Rupa. And last one is called Nibbana. So we all know that in Buddhism, the ultimate goal is to achieve Nibbana or Nirvana. And that's a kind of factor of or a level of energy that actually exists. And the idea is to develop your intellect to see that energy by yourself, within your mind. So we use meditation techniques called the Vipassana or insight meditation to develop your intellect in Buddhism. And I highly recommend you looking into insight meditation, how to do those. And there are 21 techniques or focuses of insight meditation. And through that, you're developing your intellect to see this level of energy called Nibbana, which is very unique to all the other types of energy, which has no characteristics of the other energy types. So it's a unique one. It exists on its own. But in this lesson, until the last lesson, we're going to talk about this material energy type called Rupa. The 28 Rupa energies we'll talk about in the last lesson. But until then, we're going to talk about these 2 energy types, mind energy and thought energy, or Chitta and Caitasika in Pali. Just so you know, from now on, I'll be referring for Chitta energy called mind energy in English, and Caitasika thoughts. So in English language, this Caitaika is translated into mental factors. But I'm going to use the word thoughts from now on, just for simplicity. But it means mental factors. I mean, the difference between these two energy types, I can give you an analogy to explain, is that if you, we all eat some sort of curry. So let's think of an example like dal curry, right? So when we say the word dal curry, we know it's a form of curry. So if you relate the mind energy and thought energy to a dal curry, mind energy is very similar to the name given to the curry, which is dal curry. So we know there's when you say the high level name of the curry called dal, we know there's dal definitely in the curry, and we know it's some sort of curry, right? So that's a high level name given to the detailed ingredients in the curry, which is, so thought energy is like the detailed ingredients in the curry. So curry and the ingredients in the curry cannot be separated. In that same way, you cannot separate the energy between mind energy and thought energy. Thoughts are like the detail energy of the mind energy, but they are two separate energy. They're closely related in that they start together, they continue together, and they end together. So they cannot be separated. So, but we're going to separate them. So in Sadhu's infinite wisdom, he has separated these two energies. And there are 89 mind energy types, and there are 52 thought energy types. So in this lesson, we're going to learn about the first 13 of these 52 energy types. These are thoughts that you and I are everyday experience in our lives. So it's nothing new, but we're going to learn them in a very, very unique way. Can you all hear me okay? Is my sound clear? Can someone confirm?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, thank you. So the difference between mind energy and thought energy is like a curry and its ingredients. Okay, so in that example, dal curry means the mind energy example, and the ingredients like the water and the turmeric and the salt and everything that you put in there is like the thought energy or the mental factors, the factors of the mind. Okay, so are you all clear on the difference? Sound is not clear. Okay, for some of you the sound is not clear, so I'm going to use a different headset. There we go. I'm going to change the headset. Can you hear me now? Can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. So I changed my headset, so bear with me. What I was saying in this slide was that Buddha has basically investigated what truly exists, the energies that creates all things around us in this realm and other realms. Okay, and he broken down those energies into 4 categories. And if something exists in your experience and in the real world, it's created from those energy types. It's very similar to the periodic table that creates, material objects and things which you learn in science, which are separate energy types that when you combine them, it creates certain chemical reactions. So like that, just like the periodic table, there's a even higher level, very, very fine level periodic table in Buddhism, which Buddha has taught.
in the form of Abhidhamma. That's the topic. That word means the highest teaching. It means the micro level energy types that can only be detected with your developed intellect. Okay, so we all have intellect which is not developed enough to see these 170 energy types. The only way to develop our intellect to see them and experience them yourself is through what's called insight meditation. And there are 21 types of insight meditation, which is taught in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, which I highly recommend you all learn and practice. And that's the true way to develop your intellect. So intellect is a particular thought out of these 52 thoughts. And I was basically saying that those unique levels of energies that Buddha has identified, there are 170 of them. If anything is created in your experience, whether it's in your mind or externally, is created using these 170 energy types. Now, the 170 energy types is divided into 4 categories like this. 89 of them goes to what's called mind energy, or in Pali called chitta. And 52 of them goes into thought energy or mental factors, but in Pali it's called Caitasika. These are all exist within your mind. They're interconnected in your mind. You cannot separate them. And then third category is called Rupa, which is 28 of them, class under Rupa category. Rupa means these are material energies. These are what creates physical objects all around us. And these physical objects, I'm sure you heard the 4 major Rupa energies called earth, fire, water, air. So these are the 4 main material elements or energies. But there are 28 taught in Buddhism. There are fine energies. We'll cover that topics as the last on the 10th session in this series. And the last one is the Nibbana energy, which is which has unique quality in that it does not have any qualities of these 3 categories. So it's a unique energy type that exists on its own without the support of any other energy types. Whereas these 3 categories, they need to be supported from some sort of energy. It cannot stand on its own. Only the Nibbana energy can exist on its own. And the whole purpose of Buddhism is to develop your intellect to see this Nibbana energy, and thereby your mind is developed to a level where it cannot recreate itself. So it's a way of basically disintegrating, so that you cannot be reborn. And you can only do that when you develop your intellect through the practice of insight meditation until you see the Nibbana energy. So that's the kind of summary. But in this lesson, we're going to talk about the first 13 of these 52 mental factors or thought energies. So these 52 thoughts energies, we actually experience in our lives. Okay, these are not anything new, but we're going to look at them in a new way. We're going to identify them individually. And I was saying, as an analogy, there's a relationship between the mind energy and the thought energy that exists, which cannot be separated. The example I gave was a curry called dal. And if I were to create a relationship between that example and these 2 energy types, it goes something like this. So when the moment we say a name of a curry, for example, like dal curry, that's a high level name that we gave to a curry that made of various ingredients. For example, we know that dal curry has dal in it. That's the main ingredients, and it's some sort of curry. So just like that, when we have when we talk about mental factors, mental factors are similar to the ingredients, okay, in the curry. There are so many ingredients in that dal curry, but we don't talk about them. We only talk about one or two ingredients, which is dal. Dal is the main ingredients. So the mind energy is basically giving you the high level name to that particular mindset that carries very, the main thoughts, okay, but there are many other thoughts inside that mindset. So just like the dal curry, we give it a high level name in this mind energy category. So there are 89 high level mind energies that we will learn later on. But the thought energy in the dal curry example, the thought energy is similar to your ingredients, which are your like salt, dal, turmeric, right, water, and all the ingredients that's in the curry will be classed under this mind category, which is called mental factors. But from now on, for simplicity, I'm going to use the word thought to represent the mental factors or the thought energy. And for the mind energy, I'm going to use the word mind energy. So the mind energy and thoughts, although they're same type of energy categories, there's a very tight relationship, very similar to dal curry, for example. The curry and the ingredients you cannot separate. Just like that, the mind energy and the thoughts cannot be separated. But from now on, we're going to learn about the 52 different thoughts that occur in our mind on a daily basis. Some are more frequent than others. The reason we learn about these thoughts is that there are good thoughts and bad thoughts, okay, that occur in our mind. And once you identify what's good and bad at thought level, then when the bad thought comes to your mind, you know not to cultivate them, not to spend time with them, not to dwell on them. Yeah, so you quickly move away. There are techniques to move away from them. There are meditation techniques and psychological techniques to move away from the negative thoughts. You know, if you get a thoughts that's kind of, that makes you angry, right? Well, once you learn about these thoughts, you will recognize those anger thoughts and, whatever thoughts that you don't like from, as they begin to appear at an infant level. Okay. Because when you recognize anger at a frustration level, it's easy to, get rid of it. You got to kill the monster while it's little. Okay. Not to let it develop into a monster level. So there are so many benefits of this, and the idea is the moment you learn about these 52 thoughts and these 89 thought energies or mind energies, you become mindful. You understand who you are, right? You understand the thoughts that you cultivate without thinking. You become mindful about your own mind and what kind of quality of thoughts exists in your mind. Whether you should only cultivate the positive thoughts, which are called kusal thoughts in Buddhism, and the negative thoughts are called akusal, which gives you negative karma, right? And it's those akusal thoughts which you need to identify really and stay away from as much as possible, because they will give you negative experiences in life. They'll create friction in your life, create anger, create arguments, and even send you to jail, right? If you dwell on them too much. So let's go straight into the relationship, because I want to visually explain the relationship between mind energy and thought energy. Okay, so that's the next slide. But the material energy we'll talk on our last lesson, which is the 10th lesson, and the Nibbana also. So from now on, we're going to focus on the 52 thoughts, but today we're going to talk about the first 13 of that 52. So before we start that, I want to give you a visual explanation, because some of you visually minded. So for those who are visually minded, just want to explain the relationship between the mind energy and the thought energy. Okay, it goes something like this. So what I'm trying to basically explain here in this lower level is that if you know this first kind of half square is representing one of your mind energy. Okay, imagine these are vibrations. Imagine your mind energies are made of vibrations like this, right? And this single black 3 lines represent one vibration. Then another vibration begins, and the vibration has 3 sides to it, not 4, 3. The first side is called beginning or appear, and then it has a middle, which is duration, which represent experience, right? So it has a beginning, duration, and the last side is an end. So in Pali, this is called Utpada Titi Banga. So beginning, middle, end. Immediately after it's ended, there's another thought, or there's another mind energy that immediately appears, which has the same state, same 3 states: beginning, middle, end, beginning, middle, end, beginning, middle, end. Like that, there's a continuous vibrational energy of mind energies and thought energies. And this is what happens inside our mind. So when we say our mind, which the location of our mind faculty is in your heart. Okay, so basically the mind faculty, according to Abhidhamma, according to this teaching of the greatest teacher that we know, is that our mind is situated in your heart. With there's a place in your heart that doesn't touch the blood, and in that location is where your mind is situated, the actual faculty of mind. Okay, where your eye is situated, where your ear, nose, tongue, right? Where those faculties exist. But the mind, according to Buddhism, it's inside your heart, and that's where your thoughts are generated from. But as your thoughts are generated from the heart, when you create visual pictures from your heart, they appears in your head, inside your head. Okay, so the visual images from your heart, actually you experience them in your head, inside your head, not your heart, but the actual creation of those derives from your heart. So when we try to show this black line, these color coordinations are stated here what they mean, right, in English and in Sinhala. So the black line represent the mind energy. The 2 energy types we talked about, mind and thought. All the other colors are different thoughts. So to show the relationship that the mind energy and thought energy starts together, it sustains itself together, it lives together, and it dies together. Then immediately after that, they both type of energy starts together, it sustains itself together, and it dies together. So and the time it takes to born, live, and die are equal. So in Pali, the measurement, the time it takes to born a mind energy is called 1 chittakshana. Chittakshana is the Pali word for very, very minute, very, very micro, can't put a number on it. Let's say billionth of a second, okay, for the sake of conversation. So this beginning part takes, let's say, billionth of a second. This takes billionth of a second. This takes billionth of a second. So 3 billionth of a seconds is the entire time it takes to start and end one mind energy. And just to give you an idea, when you blink, the number of mind energies that appear and dies, you cannot put into numbers. Okay. So it's such a it happening at such a fast speed is what we need to appreciate. The moment we put numbers, it becomes inaccurate. Okay. So just imagine this appearing and disappearing of these mind energies and thought energies happens at a very, very fast speed. So, but Bodhisattva has identified this fast energy types, and he segmented them, he separated them out so that we can understand, and we can learn, we can develop our intellect to even see these energies ourselves. So it's very important to appreciate how difficult to identify these kind of information that exists within us. Okay, these mind energies exist within all beings, not just us, animals, right? Any being that has a mind has these minimum 7 thoughts. These are the first 7 thoughts, which we'll go into on the next slide. But this first 7 thoughts and the mind energy exist on all beings in this realm and all the other realms, all the other 30 realms. So Buddha has identified those, and he even identified even more thoughts as well. So there are 52 thoughts, but in any one mind, there's only 34 thoughts that maximum that can occur. So the relationship of the mind energy and thought energy looks like this. And when we born, the first mind energy that appears is basically that's what starts this life off in our mother's womb. Okay, so the first mind energy that appears is the first sign of life. Okay, and then around that you have the heart and then the whole body start to develop within the womb, and since that thought, all the other thoughts will continue to exist at an exponentially high speed until you die. So what does it mean to die? What does it mean to die is that we have this body that has mind energy in it, and it has a continuous waves of vibrational energy like this that exists within our body. When we die, what happens is the last mind energy, last thought energy or mind energy simply leaves this body and takes and get attached to another body, whether in this realm or another realm. We talked about 31 realms in the last lesson. Simply it means that the last mind energy get connected to a body depending on the karma that we collect from this life or previous lives. It dictates where, which kind of body that you get attached to, and then you continue your life, you continue your mind energy vibration in that body, in that realm. And we've been dying and born in a never ending cycle all these time. And these are just temporary, temporary body that we be in, a temporary, lifeline, particular moment that we experience this experience that we're talking about right now. But what we have to appreciate is that in our mind, in our body, there's a mind energy and a thought energy that exists. And it looks like this. It looks like a continuous vibrational energy. And from the top, it looks like this. It appears and disappears, appears and disappears. So there's a clear difference. If you think of it as a light bulb, like a Christmas light bulb that that flashes, yeah, and that's a classic example of how your mind energy looks visually. If you think of a light bulb that flashes on and off because you reduce the current, but the current goes through the light, it doesn't get interrupted, only temporary. So just like that, our mind energy travels through every vibration like this continuously, and Buddha has found a way to stop this never-ending cycle or never-ending vibrational cycle of mind energy. And he said that the way we connect these vibrational energies of mind energies is through desire, is through greed. There's a thought called greed, okay, which at infant level or beginning stage is called desire. So it is a desire that binds your mind energy to the next mind energy, to the next mind energy. So there's a technique, that there's a meditation technique, not just one, but there's 21 of them, that helps you to get rid of those 3 root causes of this attachment, and you will learn that in the Mahasatipatthana Sutra, which we'll cover hopefully next year. So this year we wanna cover the highest teaching of the Buddhist psychology and understand, your own mind and the thoughts. So let's go into before we go into, actually, do you have any questions on this slide or what we talked so far? Because it's important for you to understand the relationship between the mind energy and the thought energy. That is called Nama Dharma in Pali. There's Nama Dharma, and then this third one is called Rupa Dharma. So it's Nama Rupa is basically the 2 types of energies that exist all around us, that creates everything around us. If there's a being that exists as a life, inside that being there's definitely mind energy exists, and that being's physical body is created by this Rupa energy. That's the relationship between the 2 types of energies. But within the mind energy, we're going to separate the mind energy into 2, called mind energy types and thought energy types, just like the curry and the ingredients. So let's go into the next slide and go and cover the first 7. So we're going to talk about the first 13, but 13 I'm going to break into 7 and 6 lots. Okay, so we're going to talk about the first 7 thoughts that occur in every being, even the animals and the humans and deities and the spirits. So in their minds, these seven thoughts here exist. We're going to go into those in detail now. So I think we're going to cover that in our next slide, which is this slide here. So what I did was I got this Sinhala translation on the right hand side, an English translation of those Pali words in Sinhala on this left side. So if you can just focus on the English ones, the yellow column basically explains the closest word or words that I could find to explain these Pali words. Now, it may not be the direct meaning, but it gives you the effect of these meanings, these words. So it's important to understand the words, the Pali words and the English word for the Pali word and the meaning of the word. Now you got to understand that these are thought level we're talking about right now. These are thoughts that occur in our mind. Okay, these thoughts are basically, we have to learn, memorize, and identify as they occur in our mind at some level. Okay, you may not be able to identify them right now, but you probably have heard of them. Okay, you probably, as you learn them, you become more mindful, you become more sensitive to your own thoughts, and then one or two thoughts you'll be able to pick straight away, but the rest may take time. But it's important to learn these thoughts and memorize them, and appreciate when they occur, what thoughts are going on. And the meditation technique, the thought meditation techniques in the Insight meditation program will want you to learn about these techniques, these thoughts. So when you learn about these thoughts, it's easy for you to meditate on them in the Insight meditation program. So that's one of the reasons to learn about them. So it's important for your own development, not just for this life, but for the, for many rebirths to come. And it's very rare to learn about this level of detail about your own self. And you should be really grateful that you had the opportunity to learn about them. And the next step is to be mindful once you learn about them, once you recognize them from your own self, and then just be mindful as they appear in your own mind and disappear. So that's the purpose. So let's go into the first one. These are very fine. Okay, these thoughts are very micro level. So when you learn them, it's important to appreciate that they happen, they appear and disappear very fast. But when you experience them, these thoughts may appear and disappear trillions of times. Okay, I can't even put a number on it. It's that much of a time. It probably have appear and disappear. But when you experience it, it's high level. So what that means is, if you go back to here, let's say these vibrations happen at a very fast speed. Let's say 1/1,000,000th of a second. All of this happens at that kind of speed. But the time when you call a second, you're actually getting at a high level. So imagine there's a big vibration here, but underneath that vibration you got these micro levels. So when you focus on something and you feel kindness, you feel anger, these are single thoughts, but because you exercise them, because you dwell on them for longer periods, these vibrations have appeared and disappeared so many times. Because you dwell on them for too long, now they become very big in your mind, and you can experience kindness and anger and those kind of emotions, those kind of thoughts, because you dwell on it for too long. When you dwell on something, a thought, for too long, you begin to experience it in your own self. That's when you recognize it. You wouldn't be able to recognize your thoughts at this level, at this speed yet. Okay, that's why you need to develop your intellect through Insight meditation, and then you can see these vibrations for yourself. So these are not myths; these are real universal laws. Yeah, but you can realize it for yourself. You can see these vibrations for yourself once you develop your intellect through Insight meditation. Someone put their hand up. Sorry, Onali. Yes.
If you dwell on these thoughts for too long, wouldn't that be attachment?
Yes, it is because of attachment that we dwell on it. So, but the Insight meditation technique teaches you, instead of dwelling on it, you have to detach from it and just watch the thought in its true form. Just when you watch the vibrational thought, what you experience is that this energy, this vibrational energy nature of the thought cannot stay still. It has to change because it's vibration, it's energy. The nature of energy is that it constantly changes. Therefore, you will slowly, your intellect will slowly observe the energy level changes of your thoughts. And then it's because you're not entertaining your thoughts anymore. You're detaching from it and watching them from a distance as a third person in your own mind. You will see that your thoughts will disappear slowly. Just like when you go to beach, if you watch a big wave from the beach, you will see the nature of that wave is slowly dies down when it comes to towards you. just like that, when you detach from your thoughts and watch them, observe them from a detached point of view, from a third person point of view, you will see that those thoughts cannot control you anymore, because you're not engaged in them, you're not dwelling in them, you're not embracing them. You're experiencing those thoughts from a distance as is happening to someone else. So you're not giving importance to them. So when anger comes, your mindfulness aware of them, right? You become aware of the anger thought, and you're watching them from a distance. And then anger cannot do anything else. Anger cannot control you. It cannot, make you do things that you normally do without being mindful, right? So mindfulness means when a thought comes to your mind, you observe it. You identify the particular thought, and to identify, you got to learn about them. And that's what we're doing in this lesson. So the first step is identify the thought, and then know its characteristics, and just watch them from a distance. And it has to die down by nature, by design. It has to die down, because you're not giving it food to cultivate. You're not encouraging the thought. So by not encouraging, it has to die down on its own. And when you keep treating your thoughts this way, and even feelings this way, what happens is your mind becomes neutral. Your minds become peaceful. It's not in reaction anymore. Because when you have a happy feeling, you react for some time, and then once it dies, you become sad, and you're in reaction for some time, and then you want to be happy. You do something to make you happy, and then you're in reaction for some time, and then when the happiness goes away, you may be neutral for some time, and then you react again. So your life is being like that, in temporary reactions, up and down, positive and negative. What this teaches you, this insight meditation techniques teaches you, is for you to observe that temporary reaction without getting attached. Thereby, it's causing you to be neutral. By neutral means peaceful. So your mind becomes a very peaceful place. And when you keep practicing, when you keep treating your feelings and thoughts this way through observation, your entire life becomes a peaceful place, and no one can make you, get upset or make you react according to how they want, because you know the true nature of thoughts and feelings. So you don't entertain them because they're temporary. And what's the point of attaching to something temporary that's going to give you pain later on, or maybe immediately? So in this teaching, what we're trying to teach is to identify thoughts, individual thoughts that you can quickly become aware as they appear in your mind, and then observe them. And by doing that, your mind becomes so solid, so strong, that if you lose everything that you have that's dear to you, your mind still becomes strong. It doesn't break down, and that kind of state is very important to cultivate within yourself in this ever-changing world that we live in. Because the world is there to entice you to temporary happiness, and when the temporary happiness goes away, you become sad or neutral for temporary time, and then becomes reaction again. So this teaching is very fundamental in that it makes you a very solid person, solid state of mind, and peaceful state of mind. So if you want a peaceful mind, then this is the practice you need to cultivate through insight meditation. And as part of that practice, we basically trying to teach you how, what are the different thoughts that occur in your mind. And, there are 52 of them. We're going to learn the first 13 now. And then basically the rest becomes more interesting, because this first 7 of the 13 occurs in every mind. They can be, they like when you have a good thought, when you have positive thoughts, they become positive. When you have negative thought, they become negative. When you have a neutral thought or neutral feeling, they become neutral. So these 7 occurs on every state that you'll experience. But it's important to identify them. So the first one is called phassa. Phassa means contact. What that means is making contact with the focus. So whatever your focus is, okay, for you to connect to it, you had to touch it first. For example, if you want to get onto the bus, okay, you have to go close to it and put your foot on the steps of the bus. When your feet is touching the bus, that contact is very similar. In your mind, the job of this phassa thought or this contact thought is to make contact with whatever you're focusing on. Otherwise, you cannot get to the focus, right? It connects you to the focus. The connection job is done by this contact thought. It's called phassa in Pali. So phassa means it connects your mind energy to the whatever you want to focus about. Then the next thought is called vedana, which means feelings. Okay, so there's a particular thought called feelings, which has a job to do. It basically experiences three types of feelings. Now we give different labels to these different three categories that we're going to talk about. But if you remove the labels, there's only three categories of feelings, three high-level categories. One is called happiness or happy. Second one is sad, and third one is neutral. Neutral means no happiness or sadness. It's in the middle. So that's the state we want to be in if you want to live a peaceful life. Okay, so the job of the feelings thought is to make you experience any of these three types of feelings. Now, when you meditate, the feeling you want to experience is this happy thought. Okay, it's called sukha in Pali. The happy thought you will experience through it's kind of blissful. It's not the happiness that you experience daily. Okay, this kind of happiness when you're meditating is at a blissful state, and it's a level of happiness that you cannot explain. You got to experience it, because it's nothing compared to what you experience when you buy your favorite dress or toy or whatever. Okay, it's a blissful state, and you can experience that through what's called samadhi meditation or samatha meditation. Okay, and the level of happiness that you experience through meditation is really unexplainable in words, but it's also experienced by this feelings thought. So the vedana thought or the feelings thought, the job is to give you a feeling, whether it's happy, sad, or neutral. The next one is called sanya. Sanya means recognition. Recognitions of the focus. So this is very important to understand, because when you recognize things with your eyes, like you can recognize things with your eyes, whether the information you receive from your eyes, ears, nose, etc. Right? So when you recognize a sound to be that particular person's voice, it's done by this thought, recognition thought, or sanya thought. When you recognize someone's as this is, Onali, this is Lasini, it's done by this sanya thought. Its recognition job is done by the recognition thought. So, like, you can focus on many things, but you only recognize one thing at a time. When you recognize whatever that thing, whether it's a sound, whether it's a taste, whether it's a smell, whether it's a color, whether it's a picture, whether it's a touch of someone or something, that at that moment, at that very second, is this recognition thought at work. Okay, without recognition thought, you cannot recognize things. Hopefully that's clear enough. So let's go into the next thought, which is very powerful thought. It's called Cetana in Pali, but it is the intention, the thought of intention. So in Pali, the Cetana, and in English is intention. The meaning of that is think on what you have. Sorry, think on what you have to focus on. Okay. I think the Excel file didn't copy over properly, but just imagine that the intention, the thought intention means whenever you do something or think on something, whatever your intention is, at that moment, this intention thought is doing its job. Okay? Because whenever we do something, we have an intent, why we're doing it. Okay? That intention is managed by this intention thought. This intention thought also has another job to do. It creates karma. Okay, it is a fundamental thought that governs the law of karma. Okay, it basically decides whether you're going to have good karma points in your karma account or bad karma points in your karma account. So you cannot negotiate with the karma account, creation influenced by the intention. So basically, this intention thought has an influence of all the other 50 thoughts. Okay, so it's if you were to explain that in an example. Now we all know that when a country goes to war, there are soldiers that goes to war, right, to fight. Now in these soldiers, imagine there's a battalion of soldiers and there's a leader that controls all the other members in that group. So this just like that, because that leader, the general that controls the army, whatever skill set is in that group of people, in that army, the general decide what skills to use at what point. Okay, so he has that leadership and management quality. Okay, of his army. So just like that, just imagine this intention is like the general in the army. It has a management quality, it has an influential quality of all the other thoughts. Therefore, it is in charge of the karma creation. Okay, the creation of the karma is determined by the intention of your thought or actions. Okay, so basically, let me open my Excel file, because I think the Excel file has. Okay, so basically it's the same. Okay, so basically the intention is like that. So just understand the purpose of the intention thought. The job of the intention thought is to influence all the other thoughts and to create karma. And the next one is ekaggata. Ekaggata means, but the word used here is called one-pointedness. It means maintaining the one-pointedness towards focus. So when we focus on something, if your mind is solely on that focus and it's not wandering anywhere, it's because at that moment this ekaggata thoughts is at work. Now this happens whenever you focus on something, whether you're studying, whether you're meditating, right? This ekaggata thought is at work at that moment. Whenever you're fully concentrating, fully focusing on one thing, whatever that thing is. Like in our meditation, we just did, we were focusing our mind. This ekaggata thought was focusing on the breathing, right? Wherever the breathing is felt in our mind, in our nose. So at that moment, the ekaggata thought or the one-pointedness was at work. So like that, if your ekaggata thought is weak, you cannot concentrate on anything. Your mind wanders all the time. That's why you have to meditate and exercise this mental muscle called ekaggata. Imagine all of these thoughts are like mental muscles. If you're weak on one, you got to cultivate it. You got to make it strong. You got to send it to the gym, right? So just like that, the best way to make these mental muscles strong is to meditate. When you meditate, all of these mental muscles become strong. So ekaggata means one-pointedness. That means maintaining the one-pointedness towards whatever your focus is. The next one is called jivitendriya. Jivitendriya means, do you remember in our example, there's a duration that exists in this vibration. It basically, the job of the jivitendriya is to give life to all the other thoughts, so it can sustain itself for that short period of time. So when you focus, when you think of whatever thought for a longer period of time, that means time or life of that thought or that focus is managed by this jivitendriya or this life faculty thought. So life faculty thought, it helps your thoughts energies to live, your mind energies to live. Okay, so it manages time, if you like, in your mind or life. The last one is manasikarya. Manasikarya means when you recall something from your past, this is the thought you're using to recall something. So when you remember something that happens some time ago, or even something that you're learning about now, when you're thinking of that, that's managed, that's cultivated by this recall thought. Okay, it's called manasikarya. And it means recall information from the memory to address the focus. So whatever the focus is, if you're recalling from your past memories, that recalling job is done by the manasikarya thought. Any questions on these 7 thoughts before we go to the next 6 thoughts? Or is that clear enough? Now, as I go through this, you should be able to connect with yourself and trying to relate to these thoughts, because these thoughts occur in your mind all the time. You're not aware of them. You haven't separated them. Maybe some of them you heard about, but not individual kind of jobs. So it's important to kind of cultivate these thoughts in a positive way, but we'll go into that later. Okay, so let's go into the next 6 thoughts. The next 6 will make it 13 out of 52. Now the first 7 thoughts will occur in all 89 mind energies. Do you remember we talked about 89 mind energies? Well, the first 7 exist on all 89 like this. It begins with the mind at the same time as the mind energy. It lives at the same time as the mind energy, and it dies with the mind energy. So the first 7 in this color coordinated chart that I've drawn, these are the first 7 thoughts. They occur, they sustain itself, and they die at the same time with the mind energy. Now there are 89 mind energies types. These 7 exist on all 89 types. Now the next 7, so the next 6 to make it 13, doesn't occur on all 89 mind energies. It occur on good and bad mind energies. There are positive and negative mind energies. It only occurs in those. So when you have these energies, when you're doing a good thing, they'll be acting as good thoughts in that action. When you're doing a bad thing, it will act badly in those actions. So let's look at those 6 before we conclude today's lesson. And the first one is called Vitakka in Pali. this is called logical reasoning. Okay, so it means when you have a focus and you want to kind of go towards the focus, okay, you have to give logical reasoning to do that. Without logical reasoning, you cannot direct your focus towards anything. So Vitakka does that job with logical reasoning. So when you, for example, in that exercise we did of meditation, when you focus on the meditation of breath, imagine your mind wanders away from the breathing. Then the Vitakka thought come into play, and it says, you know, you're not focusing on your breathing, right? You're focusing on something else. Let's get back to breathing. That's where our original focus is. That kind of logical reasoning is managed by this Vitakka thought. That kind of chatter is managed by the Vitakka thought. It direct your focus. It direct your concentration towards the focus. And then the Vichara thought, the job of the Vichara thought is to, so once you go to the focus, you got to learn about the focus. You got to investigate it. You got to find out what it is, right? So basically its job is to investigate the focus. So for example, when you go back to your focus in that meditation exercise, you went back to your breathing, and then when you breathe slowly in and out, you begin to see detail of your breath, right? Like, is it a short breath or is it a long one? Is there any warmth in that breath, or is there any coldness in that breath? This kind of detail is identified or recognized by the Vichara thought or investigate thought. So whatever you investigate, whenever you're analyzing or not really analyzing, but when you're investigating something, that kind of reasoning is done by the Vitakka thought. So Adhimokka, this Adhimokka thought is the thought that we use to decide on things. So whenever you make a decision, this is the thought that governs that decision. This is the thought that helps you to make, to decide on something good or bad, whether to do something or not. So it's a very powerful thought, because based on this thought, you will act. Whether you decide to do something or not, it's an action, right? So when you're in a confused state, the Adhimokka thought doesn't exist in that mindset. So therefore, you cannot decide. So that's why you have to, practice this Ekaggata thought, because when your one-pointedness thought is strong, you can see things clearly, and you can decide things clearly based on reasoning. So to make decisions on the focus is the job of the Adhimokka thought. Now, the next one is called Virya. Virya is very important, because you need to have Virya thought to do anything. So it is the thought that governs the effort. So if your Virya thought is weak, you won't make any effort to do things, to complete things in life. So whether to meditate, whether to learn about Buddhism, whether to study for an exam, whether to play a sport, this thought has to play a huge role for you to motivate, right, and to complete things. So if this thought is weak, then you won't complete things in life, right? So it's important. Now, to achieve nirvana, this thought has to be super strong, okay? And it's important to cultivate this thought through meditation. So effort thought, maintaining effort towards what you're focusing on, is the job of the effort thought, okay? So it's called Virya in Pali. The next one is Pritya. So Pritya means joy. Now, joy, you got to understand this, joy and happiness is two different things, okay? Pritya thought, or the joy thought, is experiencing joyness at a thought level. When you increase that joyful thought, when you cultivate that joyful thought, it then takes over by the feelings thought and makes that feeling felt in your body somewhere, whether as happy, sad, or neutral. So there's a clear distinction between the feeling thought and the joy thought. This joy thought is what you're experiencing when you meditate at a very high level. There are 5 different types of joy thoughts. Yeah. If you really want to experience joy in all those 5 levels, then you go to meditate. Because only meditation can makes you experience those 5 thoughts. But this meditation doesn't help you to achieve nirvana, okay? This meditation cultivates pure bliss, which is the, there's two different types of meditation techniques. There's one called samatha, one is called vidarsana. Samatha is about developing a concentration. Samatha bhavana or samatha meditation is about improving this particular thought, ekaggata thought. Okay, when you do samatha, you will feel blissful feeling states. You will feel very high level of joyful states. But the insight meditation, basically, it takes you beyond. It takes you towards nirvana. The samatha bhavana doesn't take you towards nirvana. It takes you towards Brahma worlds and higher levels of happiness realms when you die. Even when you're alive, you can experience the thoughts, experience in the Brahma worlds, the higher levels of realms, right? We talked about 31 realms. There are 16 Brahma worlds and 4 Brahma, higher level Brahma worlds. So the beings in those worlds, whatever mindset they experience, you can experience that when you develop the ekaggata thought through samatha bhavana in this life as a human being. So as a human being, that's why in India you have these Brahmins or you have these gurus who practice samadhi meditation, and they say they are a very blissful state. It's because that's what the samadhi or samatha bhavana will help you to achieve through development of this ekaggata thought. But in Buddhism is the only religion that teaches you how to develop your intellect through meditation and achieve nirvana. It's only through developing your intellect thought. We'll get to that maybe in the future sessions. There's a thought called intellect. And when you develop that thought to a very high level, you will achieve what's called nirvana, which we'll learn about towards the end. And the meditation techniques to do that is only taught in Buddhism. That's why it's very important. Only Buddhists can achieve nirvana. So you had to learn those Buddhist insight meditation technique. There are 21 of them. They're taught in summarized in particular sutta called Mahasatipatthana Sutra. And when you learn those techniques, I'll summarize them after the Abhidhamma session. That'll be next year, and then that's when the power is. That's when you develop your intellect, and the purpose of the intellect is to break things, is to really, take things to apart and see what's really there, right? And this insight techniques, insight meditation techniques help you to do that. Okay, so the joy is basically there are 5 levels of joy. Now there's a level of joy that when you experience that, your body will lift from the ground, and you can experience that when you do samatha bhavana. Okay, so these techniques you can experience yourself when you practice meditation. That's why meditation is a key to a blissful life. If you want to really experience joy, then meditation is the only way. All the other techniques are just temporary. Okay, so last one is called chande. Chande means the will. Okay, willingness to accept the focus. So this is basically the thought that occurs before desire kicks in. Okay, when you have the will to willingness to accept something as good or bad, normally basically if this in a positive mind energy state, this will get developed into desire. If you're in a negative mind state, like kusal desire, okay, if you're in a negative mind state, this will compel you to cultivate bad actions, because it gives you joy or happiness, but it creates bad karma in a akusal state. So basically chandya means your willingness to do something. Okay, when this is the initial stage of something that you do willingly or willfully, as good or bad. So chandya is at a very fundamental state. The job of chandya is to make you like something, make you feel willful to do something. So these are very fundamental energies, and can you imagine how much intelligence the Buddha has to even separate this, very, very fast appearing and disappearing vibration energy into thought level. It cannot be further divided. These vibrational energy cannot be further divided other than thoughts. Thoughts, the only final level energy type than thought is nirvana. But above that, thought is the finest, and above that, mind energy is the finest, and above that, material energy is the finest. So these are the 170 energy types taught by the Tathagata Buddha. And we learned the first 13 of the 52. So is there any questions before we conclude? That concludes today's lesson, by the way. So I don't know if you understood any of that. So I like to see how far you got with it. You got about 5 minutes for any questions. Are you confused? Is it clear? I know these are kind of new to you, for most of you. So feel free to unmute and ask questions, because only through questions you will learn. Can someone explain to me what they understood in today's lesson? Lasini, can you explain, darling, what we learned today from what you remember?
So thoughts are like really, really quick, like billionths of a second, and they have the beginning, the duration, and then the end, and then it keeps going again and again.
Yes, and can you remember any thought from the first 13 that we learned about?
Contact.
Yeah. How do you describe contact thought? What is the job of contact?
Making contact with the focus.
Very good. Anything else? Any other thoughts?
Intention.
Yeah.
And it's when you're thinking about what you're focused on, and it creates the karma and like influences the other thoughts.
Very good. Excellent. And that's very powerful. That's very powerful thought. Thanks, Lasini, for your contributions. Anyone else? Lisara, can you tell me what you remember about any other thoughts that we talked about this in this session? Maybe two other thoughts.
There was other thoughts after the 7 thoughts, which are like more developed, I think.
Yeah. Can you remember? Can you give me examples of what you remember?
I think one's investigate.
Yes, investigate. And what is the job of the investigator? What is the investigating?
I wasn't sure. I can't remember.
Yeah. So investigate thought if you go back to it, is whatever. So in that example I gave, when we focusing on our breath, for when we were meditating, when your mind wanders, okay, vichara brings it back to the original focus, and then when you're focusing on something for longer period of time, you begin to see details, right, of whatever you're focusing on. So in that example of breathing meditation, when you focus on the breath, you begin to see details like, is it a short breath, or is it a long one, or is it hot or cold, right? And the air in the breathing, air in the breath, things like this, you begin to realize through, or experience through vichara thought, or investigate thought. Very good. Anyone else? Onali, can you tell me one other thought that you remember before we conclude?
The thought of joy.
Yes, the thought of joy. What do you remember about thought of joy? What is the job of the thought of joy?
To help, something to do with happiness.
Yes, and we didn't really go into detail of the different levels of happiness. There are 5 levels, but yes, so to experience happiness at the thought level, not at the feeling level, is done by that joy thought. Excellent, thank you. So I think what I'll do is I'll post this video into the group so that you can watch it at your leisure and revise it, and it's important for you to memorize these. So as homework, I like you to can you all take a photo of these two screens so that you have notes to revise. I want you all to learn these words and the meanings, okay, and try to relate to those thoughts in your own life. Try to understand, when did I experience these thoughts? Then you begin to do manasikara. You mean to recall, right? You have to recall, and at that moment you're also using this thought to do that. But you have to really relate these thoughts to your own life. That's the only way you learn. So I want you to learn about these thoughts. So take a photo of this, and then go into this screen and take a photo of this. So can you all learn about these thoughts and the meanings? Because when you go further into these lessons, it becomes very important to learn about these words or these thoughts. So that's your homework. Thank you very much, and may you all have a very blissful, day, week ahead until we meet again. And with the blessings of these teachings, may you all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana in this lifetime itself. Thank you very much for your time and attention. So we'll end the lesson today.